How's it going, everyone? Welcome in. Welcome into another episode of the Dynasty Force podcast. Thanks so much for joining, for being here, and tuning in. With me, as always, the one and only, the legendary, the the never-ending, I guess, brilliance of Billy Brisbane at Getting Bills on Twitter. How's it going, buddy?
What's up, Robbie Ray? Right back here on another Wednesday, man. I like these Wednesday pods right smack dab in the middle of the week. You can kind of get your thoughts together before the weekend crazies come. So that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to have the little Wednesday pod because it's after waivers clear. So I feel like we got a nice little assessment of what our teams are going to look like heading into. I mean, this week's going to be a little different because we had a Tuesday game and most platforms. Well, Sleeper I know had waivers go through like normal, but other platforms I know had waivers go through on. They have them go through tomorrow morning, so that was pushed back. So for people, it's a little different. It's not a normal Wednesday, but here we are. We're still, we're still here. So in that sense, it is a normal Wednesday. Bill, real quick, you want to hit the content that you have been posting on your Twitter? Talk about that.
Yeah, no doubt. Pub Sports Radio. That's where you can check me out doing all their daily fantasy and fantasy football stuff over there. Friday videos come out. That's where we talk about FanDuel and DraftKings slate. Haven't really asked Detroit Beastie yet, but you might see a special appearance of Detroit Beastie Friday because his bottom of the barrel article just came out. So we definitely want to hype that one up for him.
Yeah, definitely. And on my Twitter, sadly, this week I will not be posting a matchup thread / breakdown article because I have finals this week in my master's courses. So I will be focusing on them outside of this podcast. So this week's going to be a little light on the content on my Twitter, but normally you will find those things on my Twitter, among other things, tons of retweets. And Billy alluded to him, but he hasn't been formally introduced, so let's do that now. Guest on the pod, as I hinted at last week, he is here in the flesh this week.
In the flesh, I love
Chris Robin, in the flesh over video. Chris Robin at Detroit Beastie on Twitter, the one and only. Chris, how's it going? How are you enjoying this Wednesday?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me back, guys. It's been a while. I'm going to say well over a month, maybe even 2 months since you've had me on your broadcast. So thanks for having me. And while Billy was talking, I was looking at the screen. I'm thinking, what I completely forgot about that in some odd way I was looking the most forward to is my own little obituary photo. And here it is. Here it is.
It looks just like that. I know you caught that with Marvin last week.
Yeah, I loved it.
I steal it right from your AV, so no consent asked for.
Nope.
I don't need it. It's public property. All right.
You're right.
Chris, you were right. It has been over a month. We had you on the fantasy feud episode that we had.
Oh, yeah.
Where we had 6 guests. If you want to ever, go check that out before the season, had some little opinionated questions, but that was definitely a really fun episode.
Am I wrong for saying that felt like it was a year ago? Seriously,
right? It really does.
Wow, that's how fast paced this is going, and with all the the injuries and COVID and guys driving drunk, it's just been crazy. So fast, goes by in the blink of an eye.
Sadly, we'll have to get into that, but Chris, you want to talk about your work real quick? And like Billy mentioned, you have the bottom of the barrel article with DFS cheat sheet. You want to dive into that?
Absolutely, yes. So Bottom of the Barrel is out now. It was posted and published about an hour or so ago. It's pinned on my page at Detroit Beastie, or you can find it exclusively at dfscheatsheet.com. A lot of good things have happened for all of us since we last got together. I now have my own show over at Hammercast for an hour, normally every Tuesday. It's called Going Deep, but it's basically we're getting into and we're dissecting bottom of the barrel every Tuesday night. But that is, I don't expect people to, write this down or even remember it. But Hammercast Going Deep, bottom of the barrel dissection will be Thursday this week. So tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, because they had a second football game Tuesday night. So
yeah.
we thought maybe it'd be better to, plug in on Thursday evening. People are looking for a football game or they're looking for content, and bam, they'll see me and we can talk about bottom of the barrel and anything that we can get into, questions, comments, and go for there. And I'm also Tuesday evenings, I'm on with Nick from P2W. I signed a contract with him every Tuesday throughout the season, and same thing. We discuss a little bit of everything, and Nick always shows some, flavor, with starts, sits, up, downs, left, rights, and that kind of thing. So it's a packed schedule for me week to week. So I couldn't be more happier than to be here with you boys.
Listen, we are so happy to have you back. And we can gladly say that Chris Robin is the first, and to this point only, 3-time guest
baby. He's in the VIP club, man.
On the podcast. I believe he's also the only 2-time guest to this point. So he is a host favorite, we will call him. So, all right, let's move on. We got to get into some news. Oh, hit the wrong banner real quick. Sorry for anyone watching that. I meant to hit that one where it's showing our Twitter, which you can follow, Dynasty Force Pod. Send us any questions, DM at whatever you want to do. Comment them live on the stream. Whatever will help you, we'll make sure to help you. And you have, I'm not going to talk for myself, but 2 great minds here with me who will give you their expert, I will say, opinion.
Some sort of opinion. Correct.
Opinion on whatever, fantasy football questions you may have. So feel free to comment or, just message us afterwards. Our Twitter is obviously on the screen and mentioned previously. All right, time to get into the news from the past weekend. After we get into the icebreaker. I'm sorry, I completely forgot about the icebreaker. I don't know why. But the icebreaker for tonight, sorry, I was just so excited for the news, but the icebreaker that we're getting into. And Chris, I'll ask you this first.
Sure.
What or who has surprised you most this season? Obviously, as fantasy analysts that do this on our own in our free time, we make our own assumptions, opinions. We judge people based on stats or based on, I forget the word, but what you think's going to happen, narrative.
Sure.
Based on that, what did you not expect is happening, but you're buying into it?
Well, I have 2 things, and the way you prefaced it, Derek Carr is one of my biggest surprises. But really quick, I want to mention how awful, and I didn't expect the Atlanta Falcons to be this bad. Does anybody start the season, expected to go 0-5, 0-6? Well, no.
Maybe the New York Jets.
True. But it just, you don't expect, the Atlanta, like the caliber of an Atlanta Falcons organization to start off this way. They are lowly low. Even last week they gave up 437 total yards, 23 points. They had 0 sacks, 0 turnovers, and things are looking really bad for the Falcons. They fired their head coach Dan Quinn. They fired their GM Dimitrov. So there is no light at the end of the tunnel as far as I'm concerned in the next week or 2 or even the next month. You get a guy like Julio Jones, who is a once in a lifetime generational talent at wide receiver for an organization like the Falcons. And it's just ho-hum. He's had so many soft tissue injuries to his leg, his feet, his toes, all that. And it's to the point where I think he's just going to pick and choose when he wants to play. And you guys can, rake me over the coals for that or tell me I'm wrong. But in a scenario like him, he's, I believe, in his early 30s, right? So in terms of football, he's not a spring chicken. Guy still has something left in the tank, but does he really want to play out the rest of his career with the Falcons? If they're trending in this direction, I can't answer that question. So that was a brief one. A guy, aside from a whole organization, is Derek Carr for the Las Vegas Raiders has been playing fantastic. And I don't think any of us expected this. And if you did, I would tell you you're lying because, given the landscape of quarterbacks, he was, not even on anybody's radar with the Mahomes and the Watsons and Lamar Jackson. Derek Carr was not even on anybody's radar. I would imagine even in a 10 or even in a 12 team, redraft league, Derek Carr wasn't even drafted. I mean, I'd love to hear from the people that are watching or will watch that, where was Derek Carr drafted? Because if you look at him, I know we should hold our horses. It's only, coming up on 6 games of the season, but we have a solid 5 games worth of stats. And as it stands now, he has some career highs in completion percentage at 73.1%. He's averaging 11.3 yards a completion. He's averaging 288 yards a game. I mean, his touchdown percentage is fantastic, and his his quarterback rating is the highest it's ever been. And again, it's only been 5 games, but the guy is trending, up again, having played in the NFL for about 5 or 6 seasons this year. So Derek Carr is a pleasant surprise, and I couldn't be more happy for him and the Raiders organization, seeing how they have been, down and out for so many years. And I can relate to that, being a Detroit Lions fans, guys.
Not this past draft, but the draft before, I remember a lot of people were banging the drum for the Raiders to potentially select a quarterback at number 4, potentially even move up last year in the draft to draft Tua. So, Derek Carr is someone who's received a lot of hate over the past few years, and it's nice to see him, earn the respect of a lot of people who have doubted him. He's had 1 great season to this point, so like you said, it's a pleasant surprise that he's coming up 4 years later and having another great season, and it's great for the Raiders because they have stayed committed to Carr. But before that, they were almost as bad as the Browns with their quarterback situation. So a lot of people could forget that because Carr's been in the league for 6 years now, and they've stayed committed to him. But before that, it was really bad for Oakland, they were Oakland at the time, Las Vegas now. So the commitment to Carr, I think, is a big thing that has helped his confidence as well.
And that let's be honest, they drafted some major talent around him in the season. And we know, Henry Ruggs has been in and out of the lineup. I believe he missed the last 2 or 3 games, but he played Sunday and he made 1 phenomenal catch. And so there's still a lot of things to be worked out with that team, and it's all for the better. Once they get more cohesion and they start connecting and, building something on the field, there's nowhere to go but up. And let's be honest. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here. Everybody and their mother, they just buried the Raiders because they play in the division with the Kansas City Chiefs, who look to be on a real tear for the next 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. But they beat Kansas City in Arrowhead last weekend. So
that's crazy.
Maybe this division, it's game on, and that would be fantastic.
Definitely. Billy, what has surprised you most to this point?
The fact that we're in week 6 so far, man. If you would have asked me over the summer, man, if we would have got through a full NFL season, I probably would have told you probably not. Hold back your redraft entries. But, we fast forward. We're almost halfway through the season, coming up soon. So it's a pretty good sign for the NFL dealing with COVID. It's pretty hard to get through the season without being in a bubble, but the NFL's figured out a way to do it. Yeah, there's been hiccups across the way, but you're going to expect that in the time era that we live in nowadays. How about you, Rob? What was your biggest surprise so far this season?
First of all, to your point, they had some hiccups, and it's only getting more. I mean, not more concerning, I would say, because Tennessee is kind of over their pothole. I'm going to say, their obstacles now. The Patriots seem to be better, whereas the Falcons, I think they had 1 random person who was either tested positive or exposed. But the difference, it's starting to lighten up a little bit more. And if you remember those first 4 weeks the first 3.5 weeks went by so smoothly. So, like,
Yeah.
if most of the season can go by like that, it's going to be perfect. I put a picture of Justin Herbert on the screen, but that's not my pick. I just wanted to mention Justin Herbert real quick because he has been a huge surprise. If we expected Justin Herbert to play the way that Justin Herbert has been playing, then he would have been the number 1 overall pick over Joe Burrow. So, pretty crazy how he has just looked phenomenal to this point in his rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
My pick for the most surprising, I picked the player and I took James Robinson for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And look, Billy was here with me most of the offseason as I didn't necessarily beat the drum for Chris Thompson, but I did say that he was going to be very valuable and that Leonard Fournette was not going to be valuable. And my take on Fournette was that the Jacksonville Jaguars as a whole were not going to be able to run the football. And James Robinson has kind of proven me wrong with that take. And it's weird because, like, it's James Robinson, an undrafted rookie free agent, steps in, and it just seems like immediately is better for the Jaguars offense than Leonard Fournette. Like, just a better fit overall, and before the season we were having all these questions. Is it going to be Raquel Armstead? Is it going to be Divine Ozigbo? And then, lo and behold, James Robinson and Chris Thompson are the last ones standing. We all think Chris Thompson's still going to have a role. He doesn't. Like, it has been the James Robinson show in Jacksonville, and he looks pretty good.
Absolutely.
And it's just surprising. Like, I can pull up the numbers real quick on where he ranks in the season because I don't know off the top of my head. I have it in front of me now. James Robinson is the 9th overall back in fantasy right now. PPR.
Killing it in the receiving game.
PPR scoring. Yeah, he's doing, like I said, we expected Chris Thompson to have that role, and it's just weird that he didn't. Like James Robinson, has seen 22 targets through 5 games, which is a very solid baseline for your running back. And then, he's seen 73 attempts at the same time, like averaging 4.6 a carry. Like he just looks good. He has the stats on his side, and it's really weird how an undrafted free agent, like the only other few times we've seen it is Austin Eckler and Philip Lindsay, where they've come out and they've just immediately made an impact on the game as undrafted free agent running backs. So it can be done. It's just very, not often that it happens. And it's surprising. It's like Derek Carr. It's a good surprise. Like, the season's still going. It's a good surprise, but it is a surprise regardless.
So get this real quick, fellas. I added James Robinson off waivers at the beginning of September. I think it was like September 4th or 5th.
Mm-hmm.
I plugged him in. I'm in a really deep league, 14 teams, full IDP and all that. And week 3, literally I could timestamp it and send you the screenshot. Week 3, before the 1:00 games were even over, I got an offer for my James Robinson and Laviska Shenault, and it was straight up for Miles Sanders.
Okay.
Snagged it. Snagged it, right?
Absolutely. So it's just a case of was he the ultimate sell high, or are you rebuilding and you kind of want to use him as a piece? But any way you slice it, if you can get a home run kind of offer like that, you're going to take it. Mindfully, it was week 3. And James Robinson had just went off on a Thursday night. He looked good in the first half of week 3, but it was there was a panicked and upset Miles Sanders owner because Sanders hadn't done much leading up to that. And look how it's turned out. Now, James Robinson is, I wish him the best, and everything, but Miles Sanders is back to being Booby, right? Booby Sanders. He scored twice last weekend. So it was a no-brainer kind of thing. And at the time, and even, the last week or 10 days, you get a lot of questions about a guy like James Robinson. Do I sell high on him? Where would you rank him in Dynasty? And it's all relative, right? It's like fluid. It depends on, the makeup of your team. But if you can get a return like Miles Sanders, I'm doing it all day. But I'm also, it's an odd thing. Sorry to keep talking, but
No, you're good.
I'm more than happy to, keep him on my roster in my starting running back spot.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, a very deep dynasty league, 14 teams, full IDP. I was in that. I held James Robinson on my taxi squad throughout the entire preseason. And then right before the season, I forget what happened, but for some reason I let go of him because it was right before I think it was before Fournette was even cut. So like it just
made sense.
Yeah, like it was a fine move to make at the time, but it just did not work out in my favor at all, and it's one of my biggest fantasy regrets, at least of this year, especially in Dynasty. So, I think we've harped on surprises enough. So let's move on into the actual news. Chris,
we broke the ice. That's what we've done. That was the goal, and we did that.
Did you ever play that? I can't remember what brand it is. I don't think it was Milton Bradley, but it was a little game.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes,
it was like don't break the ice, and you had to like tap the ice, but you couldn't like knock it all the way through.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was I'm in my mid-30s, but I thought it was a game where like you had to wet a paper towel, and there was these really light sticks that you had to put in the middle or something. Am I way off on that?
I have no idea. I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
I think you're wrong on that. I don't know. Maybe I was just playing it wrong, but I thought you had to put like little like toy people on the ice, and then you had to knock the ice and make sure the toy people didn't fall or something like that. I think
maybe
Detroit.
Where I was born and
raised,
I couldn't spend the $10 on a game, so we kind of made up our own with a wet piece of towel.
That sounds more realistic. I don't think Milton Bradley games have you go get a towel and wet it, but
we're on to something now.
All right, let's try and get through this news pretty quickly. Let's start with Dak Prescott. Obviously, over the weekend, I was watching it live, and I don't handle injuries well. So my fiance, who was watching it with me, was trying to like force me to watch it to see like what actually happened. You could tell like as soon as it happened that it was not good. It was not good. So shout out to Dak, and hopefully he gets a speedy and healthy recovery back to full strength. I expect that for him, but he's going to be out for the rest of the season. We have to adjust. First, I want to ask Chris, what have you seen Andy Dalton go for in Dynasty leagues to this point?
Well, in Dynasty leagues, to be honest with you, I haven't checked much in mine because, as I said, I play in a Fantrax league, and we don't do fab in that one. It's just a waiver wire priority, trying to get the guys to make the move to fab because it's IDP, full point PPR. But, in terms of like the sleeper leagues I play on, and even ESPN's waivers, as you said in the opening of the show, the waivers don't clear until, tomorrow morning, or in the middle of the night on Thursday. But I have seen screenshots of like other leagues that are, more unique and more dialed into them. And I've seen, and even the advice I've seen from other people, even literally 10 minutes after it happened. That's how, I don't want to say toxic, but that's how wild social media is, especially Twitter. Dak wasn't even off the field yet, and people were saying, you now have to spend every dime that you have left in fab to get Andy Dalton, and I'm with you. We wish Dak the best. He seems to be a good man. Everybody has his respect, and to give respect or to get respect, you got to give respect and that whole thing. But let's say, off the top of my head, let's say you play in a $100 fab league. We're coming up on week 6. So if you're unlike me, because I blow $100 on fab in the first 3 weeks, but let's say you have, this is pretty realistic. Let's say you have like $75 or $80 left out of 100 for the season, right? I would first double check that you can still add guys for $0 or even $1. I know that's pretty standard these days, but let's say $75. Out of $75, I would go, $50, $57. I wouldn't shoot my entire my entire fab budget, on Andy Dalton. The biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? The biggest thing he has going for him, Zeke Elliott is your running back stud. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb is now, a top 5, wide receiver, or excuse me, top 5 Dynasty wide receiver. And that's realistic. You still have Amari Cooper there. You have a slew of other guys like Gallup or Schultz or Blake Bell at tight end. So it's a good addition, but I think we need to, hold our horses or pump the brakes, as people say, on spending $100 on Andy Dalton. Now, again, super flex, 2 quarterback leagues. He's going to go for that. He's going to go for more than $80 or $100, And again, when people ask me questions like this on social media, it's hard to, get a gauge for that. I don't know how your league and, the makeup of your league in terms of this guy always goes all in. This is the budget kind of guy. So I would put in a bid for $50-$60 out of 100 and see what it gets you, right? In a super flex, $50-$60 isn't going to cut it. But in a standard 1 quarterback league, I think $50-$60 is your sweet spot for Dalton.
To your point, I'm in a super flex league. I didn't really need quarterback. I'm in this league with you, Billy. It's my sort of home league. It's 10 teams, but out of $100, I still have 59. I put all 59 in. It is a super flex league. Yeah. I didn't necessarily need a quarterback, but I wanted to sort of take advantage. Like, I believe in that league, the Dak owner also owns Kyler, so he's not, super desperate for a quarterback. But I feel as though whatever you put in Fab right now for Andy Dalton will return itself in a few weeks when people are really desperate for quarterbacks with buys and whatever, and they have to pay up in order to get Andy Dalton, and they really are desperate. They really want it. Those Dak owners who just lost arguably the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football right now. So personally, I'm in a rebuilding league where I don't have quarterbacks, and I'm actually very upset because I own Andy Dalton, and I feel like people don't want to buy Andy Dalton because he's so pricey. But like, I got to find a way to make the sale. Yeah. I mean, we'll get into this later, but I'm not very high on Andy Dalton this week. Bill, what do you think about the Cowboys' options as a whole, like Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, even Zeke? What effect does Dak to Andy Dalton have on them?
I think you want to uptick Zeke a little bit. He should get a little bit more usage. This offense was extremely throwing the ball a lot this season. And then when it comes to wide receivers, you might have to take the safety tag off of Amari Cooper. He's oddly been safe this year. He had almost 100 yards in every game so far this year without looking at the box scores. And then when it comes to the 2 secondary wide receivers, when it comes to Gallup and CeeDee Lamb, I kind of give the edge to Gallup. He seemed to have a chemistry with Andy Dalton on the last drive of the game. As a quarterback, not being a quarterback, when you see a person make those type of outrageous catches, you just start having a built chemistry with them long-term wise. That's the person that you're going to look for. And then I think we all should be downgrading Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz was getting Dak love, but without Dak, I don't think that Dalton Schultz is going to be as good as he was. I think he was number 3 or number 4 tight end so far this season with Dak in the lineup.
He was pretty good. I can vouch that for you. Let me really quick work to pull that up.
No, excuse me. I'm with Billy here. Zeke should see a huge bump in usage as it's, that's kind of the safe route with Dalton just coming in. Now we know Dalton is a seasoned veteran. He's a Texas kid, played at TCU. He's in a big spot. He's excited, and he's been with the team all off season and to this point. So the guy has gotten practice with there. It's not like a rookie walking in being thrust into action, in week 6, and oh my God, it's going to be a freak out. So Dalton's going to be fine, but I think the whole fantasy football community can agree on he's not Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is in he's on the moon. He's in a tier of his own when it comes to Andy Dalton. But Andy Dalton's going to be fine. We saw what he did in Cincinnati. When he gets a wide receiver like AJ Green, he tends to show favorites and focus in on him. So in terms of Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, I think the jury is still out, because I think Dalton is going to find one of those guys, and that said guy is going to become Dalton's favorite, and the other two are going to take a step back. So at this point, it's like playing the shell game. Where's the shell? Which one you can find? Lift the cup, find the shell. We're playing the same game here with the 3 wide receivers in Dallas. So I respectfully disagree with you, Billy, and it come to find out, if it's Cooper, it's Cooper. If it's Lamb, it's Lamb. And we'll go from there. I think that's just my own words and my own opinion, but I think it could hold some weight, though.
It definitely could. I think you guys have kind of touched on most of everything there is to touch on with Dallas. So I don't really have much to input other than, Billy, I did bet that from week 1 through 4, I didn't count last week because Andy Dalton, coming in halfway through the game kind of screwed things up. Dalton Schultz was the tight end 6. So pretty valuable. And he could go from valuable to irrelevant with this Dak injury.
Yeah.
Next piece of news, Le'Veon Bell. He's a free man out of New York. Cut by the Jets, but I mean, never has being cut been such beautiful news to a player. He's currently a free agent, but well, first let's start with this, and I'll go to Billy for this.
Yeah, I was hoping you would go to me first for this one, man.
I don't know which one you're hoping. All right, talk about which one you're hoping to get. I don't know if you want to talk about where you think he'll go.
Le'Veon Bell, I'm telling you, destination for Le'Veon Bell, Arena Football League 2020.
Oh, God.
I'm telling you, Le'Veon Bell's going to be the face of the Arena Football League. They're going to pay him a big amount of money, and he's going to be happy. But all jokes aside, crazy to say, but we got to uptick Frank Gore a little bit if you're in a redraft league and he's on your waivers. I mean, I guess go get him, man. I mean, he should see a certain amount of usage, and usage trumps out talent, honestly, in fantasy football. Detroit Beastie, how are you feeling about Le'Veon Bell leaving the Jets? If anything, they did him a favor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm sure you guys saw it, but he sent out a tweet last night. It didn't say 2 things. It just had the praying hands. So he's happy to be out, right? And now it's a guessing game, but it's exciting what's going to happen. I've read and I've heard several reports of every team under the sun, to be honest with you. It looks like, and the Clyde Edwards-Helaire owners are going to freak out, but I recently read not less than an hour ago that him to the Chiefs is a good fit because he can go. He doesn't need any practice time. He's a vet. He can come right in.
Yep.
It's up to him to learn the playbook, and I believe he can do that fairly easy. In order to, let's say he signed tonight, I believe whatever team he signs with, he plays, right? He's getting reps on Sunday, absolutely. Yeah. And he's been part of a winning organization in Pittsburgh. He knows what it takes. He's not a dummy. He's not lazy, aside from, popular belief. So him going to the Chiefs makes a lot of sense. And the other one that makes, unbelievable amount of sense are the Patriots as well. That backfield has been,
dog shit.
Yeah, for years.
It's a great word.
And even when it's not dog shit, it's another guessing game. Who's going to, 1 week Sony Michel gets 3 touchdowns. The next week, James White, so, and just look at it this season. Damian Harris had 100 yards last week. It's I don't want to say nonsense, but it's nuts in New England. So just be open to wherever Le'Veon Bell goes, because wherever he does land, he's going to get major carries. And I like that. I like the combo of Bell and David Montgomery there. Maybe in that scenario, Bell takes over, the passing down work, although Montgomery could do that as well. So at this point, it's foolish to, go on and on about where Le'Veon Bell is going to go. And when he there's so much disconnect in between until he lands. But the moment he lands, fantasy football Twitter and all social media are going to absolutely freak out.
We're all going to rock.
All right, so I have 3 points that I want to make. Number one, no matter where Le'Veon Bell goes, it's better than New York, because you can't get worse than the worst offense in football. Number one, and his usage. It was very bad. Tell
Jamison Crowder that, man. He's been eating.
No, Jamison Crowder is completely different because
I'm just joking.
You know that.
I'm just joking.
Number two, destination I want to throw out, Los Angeles Chargers, because the way Josh Kelly has looked over recent weeks, and Le'Veon Bell could take that Austin Eckler sort of role until Eckler comes back, and it's a good offense with a good-looking quarterback, great wide receivers. You get a great opportunity for a while. It's a situation where he can immediately come in, have a big role, look good, and look good for a future contract as well. So that's
I just don't think the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers are willing to spend money on Le'Veon Bell because I don't know if this is just like a preconceived notion of mine, but the Chargers are very stingy of what they do with their cap room, how they spend their cap money, and what they do with it. And Le'Veon's not going to be cheap, man. That's the reason why he got released and he didn't get traded anywhere. Wherever he signs, a team's going to have to sign a big check to get Le'Veon Bell on that roster.
I disagree for the sole fact that I think Le'Veon is playing for the future, and Le'Veon is already making $6 million off the Jets this year. So he doesn't need a ton of money from wherever he signs because he's already making a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
And he wants to go to the best place where he's going to look good for the future so that he can sign a big check this offseason.
Okay, well, I could take that.
Here's the thing. It's like, as it stands now, I'm actively on Twitter with my computer, and it's like Elvis sightings. We just saw him. But there was a tweet under the let me rewind real quick. Under, I think his name was Jeremy Fowler. He verified, works for ESPN, and he mentioned the Chiefs portion and Miami. And one of the comments under it was a screenshot of a text conversation between two buddies. That the one buddy happens to work in Buffalo at the airport. And he says, Le'Veon Bell is in Buffalo. He's in the airport right now. My friend just served him wings. So when I say it's like Elvis sightings, is that true? Is it not true? But this is going to keep happening until he finally signs somewhere. But is he in Buffalo getting wings in the airport? I don't know.
And one final point that I want to point out: don't sleep on LaMichael Pirine for the New York Jets. I know you didn't have a big role when Le'Veon Bell was on IR, but now that Le'Veon Bell is gone, completely out of the plans, maybe they put a little more onto the fourth-round rookies plate as sort of a change of pace back from Frank Gore, who, I mean, maybe Adam Gase doesn't know it, but we know that Frank Gore is not an every down back.
Wash.
What I did in all my rookie drafts, I didn't have very many high picks, but with the picks that I did have, I stacked LaMichael Pirine, Darrington Evans, and Anthony McFarland Jr. in every draft I was in. So I own all three backs, and I'm happy with the future of my team.
I agree with that. Connor is a free agent. Lev is obviously a free agent now. The future looks better for the New York Jets after they move on from Gase, which is inevitable. I think we can all kind of agree that at the rate it's going, unless a miraculous turnaround happens, the Jets will fire Adam Gase at the very least after the season. And then Darrington Evans, I mean, he is tied to Henry, but he is still, I think, a high volume handcuff at that point. So I like the little sacks that work out of later in the rookie draft. There was a lot of value in rookie drafts this year.
There really was, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. Melvin Gordon, Detroit Beastie alluded to this one a little earlier with the DUI charge for Melvin Gordon. I saw a report earlier, Vic Fangio, saying that he is not sure if Gordon is going to play this week. So, this obviously isn't a long-term sort of thing. So, I think the max it would be is if he got suspended for like 4 games or something. But I doubt it would even be that, because the NFL, I think he's a first-time offender, and NFL likes to, give the little slap on the wrist there to people who are first-time offenders. So, let's just say he only misses this game. Where is Philip Lindsay on your radar, Chris?
Well, as it stands now, I'm going to refrain from answering that question until we know, what's going to happen. And let's be honest, we all know where it's headed. It's trending in that direction. He was messaged. I'm talking about the Fangio messaged. Melvin Gordon said, don't even bother showing up to practice today being Wednesday. So it's looking that way. Does he get suspended by the league? I highly doubt it. But in that same message I read, the Denver Broncos are looking into some sort of not suspension, but some sort of
repercussion.
Repercussion punishment. So obviously there's going to be a fine. Do they suspend him for a game or two? I don't know, and we don't know. The only thing I can control the only thing we can all control is what we do and how we react to this. And how I'm reacting, I'm adding Royce Freeman in any and all formats as it stands now.
Royce the 5'9" Freeman. He's still alive, baby. He's still alive. That's one of my truth or status players.
Never dies. Yeah, that's a very good point. Pay attention to Twitter and everything that's going to be going on there about whether Melvin Gordon actually gets suspended or not.
Look real quick. I looking at my rankings preliminarily, I have Melvin Gordon at like 2021. It's still a work in progress. I don't like to publish the rankings until like Friday night or Saturday after there's been, a full week of practice or something stupid happens like this with a guy. It looks silly, right? And then I have, like I said, I have Melvin Gordon as it stands now at like 2021. And I have Phil Lindsay in the 40s, like 43, 44. And let's say worst case scenario, Melvin Gordon is suspended. How high do you bring him up? I'm not going to put him, past, let's say, Cam Akers at 28, but he'll be in that sweet spot ahead of like Nyheim Hines at 30. So everything's still up in the air right now.
Definitely. And New England this week. So it's not even, he'll get volume if Gordon were to miss, but it's not something you're excited about.
No.
And then Dalvin Cook, likely to miss week 6 with a groin injury.
You know what to do.
Yeah, you do.
Look, I was holding Alexander Madison not as a Dalvin Cook owner, just holding him because I was in a 10-team league, and I was like, you know what? I got to shoot for the upside. And if Dalvin Cook goes out, I have potentially a top 10 fantasy back here in Alexander Madison. Now, it's only 1 week. And the weird words of Mike Zimmer doesn't even make it seem like he makes it seem like there's a chance that he even plays this week. I doubt it, especially when they have a bye next week. Like, give him just 2 weeks of rest. But anything's on the table. Dalvin Cook. Like, I am a Dalvin Cook owner in Dynasty. I don't own Alexander Madison in that league, but I do have plenty of running backs, so I'm fine. I will say though, like I do wish I had Alexander Madison. And regardless, though, he's the top waiver priority / fab guy in normal leagues, single quarterback leagues for this week, where he's on like redraft leagues. If he's on, if he's in free agency, you need that 1 week play. Alexander Madison is the clear-cut guy. Chris, let me give you a hypothetical because it's the situation that I'm in. I was kind of alluding to.
Yeah.
You're in a redraft league. You have Alexander Madison, and you're getting inquired about running backs. Where I mean, pricing is hard, obviously, for a 1 week player who we project as a top 10 back, but still a 1 week player. What are your or if you're selling him to the Dalvin Cook owner who may have to prioritize him because what if this injury gets re-aggravated? What if something happens in the future? So how would you kind of be approaching buying Alexander Madison if you were the Dalvin Cook owner?
Okay, if I was may I answer as the Dalvin Cook owner and as the Alexander Madison owner in two separate things here?
I actually would appreciate that.
All right. If I was the Dalvin Cook owner, I wouldn't pay any mind in trying to add Mattinson because the price would be so high. Seeing how the Mattinson owner would have you by the stones here, as there's like a 1 week like super high buy price, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even pay any mind to it. So if you own Cook, I would imagine that you have some other nice pieces around you. And worst case scenario, you got to start, like a James White, let's say, or a Phillip Lindsay in your running back spots. And then instead of normally starting 2 running backs and then in your third flex spot, you start another running back. You just have to, jumble your roster up. So as a Cook owner, I'm not paying any mind to, being held for ransom in trying to acquire Mattinson, let's say. Now, as the Mattinson owner, I would hold on to Alexander Mattinson. You have a 1 week kind of window where they're going to use him and they're going to use him a lot. And we've seen in the past, Mattinson has all the makings of an RB1 anywhere else in this league. If he was on any other team or on a team, that didn't have a stud, kind of a workhorse like Cook, Mattinson would get looks as the RB1. He would have a larger role than he does now. So as it stands now, as the Mattinson owner, I'm putting him in my roster. He's starting for me in week 6, and then I'm going to look to sell him after he does what we all think he's going to do in week 6. Now you have the idea of the league, or you have all the thoughts of the league as, well, Cook missed a game. It was a groin injury. Those things tend to linger. Mattinson stepped up in Cook's absence and was fantastic. So now what do we do in the long term for the rest of the season? Then that's the time to, go to the Cook owner. And in turn, the Cook owner should pay you some more attention in that mindset and that mind frame. That's how my silly mind works.
I agree. No, it's a good point. I think holding Madison's a good idea, though, too, because, like you said, those things tend to linger. What if, he re-aggravates and then it's a long-term injury for Dalvin Cook? Dalvin Cook has not been the healthiest player in his career. So
absolutely. He hasn't been the pillar of health. Let's be honest here. Exactly.
Bill, I don't know. Your thoughts? I don't have a specific question.
I feel like fantasy owners are more savvy and smart enough nowadays to understand what to do when this situation happens. The only thing that I have to add on to everything that you guys said, make sure you pick up Mike Boone for your fantasy rosters, Dynasty and Redraft. Just by the off chance scenario that he comes back into the relevant picture again as the you guys think that's going to be 60-40, 70-30 type of split, right? It might just be that Joshua Kelly, Justin Jackson situation scenario that we just witnessed Monday night. So make sure you definitely pick up Mike Boone.
Yeah, Madison won't get all the work. And Chris and I were talking about this before the show, and he mentioned that Mike Boone was on bottom of the barrel this week. So
he's $5,100 on FanDuel. And he's an even 4K on DraftKings. He's going to be
4K.
He's going to be in a lot of my tournament lineups. And I got several free millionaire maker entries on FanDuel because of all the nonsense that went on Sunday. And I'm going to be honest with you right now, Mike Boone is going to be probably in every one of them this weekend.
I don't blame you at all. All right, Chris, I know you said you had to get out of here. Can I hold you for a few more minutes so that you can talk about some players that you're excited for this week?
Absolutely. Yes.
Sounds great. All right. I am going to run you dry here so that hopefully we can get through as many as you have. So we call this little segment hype and hate, which is where guys we're hype on for the week, guys we hate on for the week. Pretty self-explanatory. So
Yeah.
Chris, why don't you lead it off here? You have a quarterback for us that you are excited for this week.
Yes, absolutely. And it makes me sick to my stomach to mention this guy as a Lions guy and as an NFC North owner, not owner, but a fan. It's Kirk Cousins this weekend. They're home and they're welcoming in the aforementioned Atlanta Falcons who are awful. And they're giving up 33.333 points a game. And so Kirk comes in home to play Atlanta, and he didn't look awful last weekend. Maybe they're starting to get in gear, and he's using Justin Jefferson more, and he's using Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen had a wide receiver 1 week in week 5, so hopefully that this is kind of kicking up a notch this weekend. I have him for about 18 completions, and you'll notice that I don't expect Kirk Cousins to throw the ball 50 times because they're going to use Mike Boone, as we said, and Alexander Mattinson. I could see each one of them getting, let's say Boone gets 10 or 12 carries and then Mattinson gets 17 or 18 carries. So I don't think this is going to be a really tough game for Minnesota in terms of putting up points and trying to win. So Kirk Cousins throws for 225 yards, 3 touchdowns. They get up early, and in the second half, it's just run. So as sick as it sounds, Kirk Cousins is a major start for me this weekend.
I don't blame you, man. I think he is top 3 highest owned quarterbacks for DFS this week, DraftKings and FanDuel.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't.
And I'd like to think it's because of bottom of the barrel. I mentioned Kirk Cousins and bottom of the barrel, and maybe B&B has more push and pull than I had thought.
Maybe it's possible.
No,
Anything's
possible.
By the way, Adam Thielen is the wide receiver 2 on the season in PPR leagues, and I believe in other formats he is the wide receiver 1. So, yeah, it's been great for that combination to this point in this
Absolutely.
season. All right, Chris, I said I was going to run you dry. Hit us with your running back.
Now, this one's pretty easy. It's David Montgomery, Chicago Bears running back. They traveled to Carolina this weekend, and Carolina isn't exactly the pillar of defense. I know you got a guy, this stud rookie safety, Jeremy Chin, running around, and he's been fantastic, but he can only do so much. David Montgomery has, as we saw last year, he had a 242 total carries, and that blew my mind when I checked in on that in the summer. So David Montgomery is a guy that that we can trust this weekend. He has some major, I don't want to say hype, but there's some excitement behind him heading into this weekend. I long touted him over the summer as a guy that we could trust in Dynasty and actually all seasonal formats, and he's going to show us why this weekend. I have him about 18 carries, 85 rushing yards, 5 receptions, 45 yards. So 160 total yards, a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown in Carolina this weekend. He's a guy that you can plug and play in any and all formats. If you haven't already, send out an offer that I'm doing right now. I'm waiting to hear back, but in DFS formats, it's a slam dunk. $5,900 on FanDuel, $5,800 on DraftKings. Another guy who's going to be in any and all of my DFS formats this Sunday.
Yeah, I love that take for David Montgomery. I mean, obviously Carolina has been very susceptible to the run. They had a better than average week against Kenyon Drake when they played the Arizona Cardinals, and then Chase Edmonds still had a nice game against them. And then last week, Todd Gurley, who has not had a ton of success on the ground, had a decent amount of success. I think he had 14 rushes for over 100 yards. So
real quick, I was on Sunday, I was headed to my girlfriend's parents' house for dinner, Canadian Thanksgiving Day dinner, right?
Oh, sounds great.
I think Todd Gurley scored on the first possession of the game, if I'm not mistaken, from the 5-yard line. And of course, as Twitter does, as toxic as Twitter does, how many people came out? Oh, I told you Gurley was going to have a big game. He was going to be fantastic. He didn't do He didn't do much after that. He put up, as you said, 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how fast people are so.
They're so quick to take that victory lap.
Yeah, they want it so bad, right? And it's funny. Todd Gurley is a guy that I enjoy, but Twitter is so toxic. Let's just be honest.
Twitter is a very funny place to be, and not fun to be in if you are eating that defeat.
Yeah,
definitely.
About 2 weeks into the sorry to hang
No, you're
up,
good.
but I thought Sunday was going to be fantastic. Sundays were going to be fantastic for me in terms of social media. I can live tweet football games. I can always up. And after the first week, I was like, nope, that's it. I spend all week reading, researching, putting out content, doing podcasts, guest spots like with you guys. And then when Sunday rolls around, I want nothing to do with social media. It is absolutely
same
toxic.
here, man. Same
here.
I
basically sit there and say, I'm watching football. Don't bother me.
I enjoy it. I put the phone down. I put the computer away, and I enjoy the fruits of my labor. Let's say, guys.
My fiance is mouthing at me because she's mad at me right now, but not to you. Right? You can bother.
Get her on.
Social media. Social media. Social media.
How's it keep on snapping?
All right, Chris. Wide receiver time.
Yeah, this one's nice, and I'm telling you, it's not a homer call because we all know Kenny Galladay is a stone cold stud. He's a top 10 wide receiver. Unfortunately, he missed a few games to start the season, but I firmly believe that week 6 in Jacksonville is when he starts getting going. I have Stafford in bottom of the barrel for 3 touchdowns. Kenny G is going to catch 1 for sure, maybe 2 of them. I have Kenny G down for 7 receptions and 100 yards and a touchdown here. This one it's another slam dunk. I mean, what's the point of reading and researching and getting guys that you're behind if you don't believe that they're home run calls? So Kenny G this weekend in Jacksonville is a home run. I know you have the hype for Laviska Shenault here, and I agree with you on that one too. The more, and again, this is all on the fly here, and again, the more that Jacksonville sees what they have in this kid, the more they're going to use him. They're going to line him up in the wildcat, in the backfield as a running back, and screens, screen passes, reverses. Laviska Shenault, by 4 or 5 weeks from now, this kid is going to be a stud Swiss Army knife for that team, and I hope that he can delay that this week when my Lions come into town. But sometimes you just can't. The inevitable happens. You can't stop it. And Laviska Shenault is going to be a very nice real life wide receiver and a really nice wide receiver for our fantasy teams. In the long run here.
Yeah. Just to be clear, you did send me Laviska Shenault. So, not to. I can't see on
properly call him by his right name. Everybody wants to talk about Laviska Shenault, but nobody calls him by his right name. The right name for Laviska Shenault is Visca Hancho.
Visca Hancho.
That's what they used to call him
there
in college. So I feel like everyone should get on that nickname bandwagon, Visca Hancho.
Visca Hancho.
I will not.
Well, to be honest with you, I planned for Kenny G, and having not prepared for Laviska Shenault Jr., I think I did a pretty good job on the fly.
Junior, yeah, man. No, definitely.
I picked Laviska Shenault because I was definitely thinking about picking him when I got to my wide receivers, and then I looked at my cell phone text messages and was like, "Fuck me, man! I gotta delete that one."
All right, Chris. Final hype, tight end time.
Sure. Let's see what you have here because we have conflicting notes. But yeah, Irv Smith, no doubt. Real quick, I kind of switched. Evan Ingram looks fantastic to me.
You can't take Evan Ingram because I have Evan Ingram.
All right. Well, I'll let you have that. And in terms of Irv Smith, I have nothing fancy to say here about him. If the breakout game isn't this weekend at home against Atlanta, then it's not happening this season, folks. Let's be honest with ourselves here. All spring and summer, it was all Irv Smith is going to be a stud. Yep. Chris Herndon in New York is going to be a stud. And neither one of these tight ends have panned out so far. So I'm saying it now. If Irv Smith doesn't break out or have like a big game on Sunday at home again versus Atlanta, it's not happening. If he doesn't do what we all thought he was going to do this Sunday, Irv Smith is 100% droppable to me if he doesn't put up some points Sunday.
I actually have Kyle Rudolph starting in a Dynasty league where, he's just been, I don't want to say more involved, but he's been on the field more. So I mean, we kind of expected that. So Billy's gonna go fix his green screen.
Kyle Rudolph.
The fucking light in my room.
Kyle Rudolph is a guy where he's not going. He has a safe floor, right?
Yeah.
And even the floor isn't but 4 or 5 points. But at the tight end position, if you're like me, I don't draft, the George Kittles or Travis Kelce's because you got to pay second, third round hype for them. There are so many studs or young kids that come out of nowhere that become league winning potential waiver wire ads. This time of the year, week 7, week 8. You get a guy who scores 2-3 touchdowns the week before, you add him off waivers, and boom, you're off and running with him. So I don't pay stock in, those really stud tight ends. But Kyle Rudolph is a guy you can just leave him in your lineup, and it's as safe as it gets. If he scores a touchdown in a week, it's all gravy. So I don't believe he scored a ton of touchdowns last season, but this week I have him for being targeted 3 or 4 times, 2 or 3 receptions, 30, 40 yards. And again, if he scores a touchdown, you're looking at like 10 or 12 PPR points, and that's gravy, as I said.
Real quick though, I am one of the players that drafts tight ends early because I feel like I can make it work later on in drafts at running back. I can make it work off the waiver wire easier than I can, kind of take the shot at tight end. Though in one league where I do have George Kittle, I also have Jonnu Smith, who is currently number 1 in points per game among tight ends. So
look at a guy like in Baltimore, Mark Andrews. If I'm not mistaken, he did the same thing last season. Lamar had the MVP year. Mark Andrews came out of nowhere. They had Hayden Hurst there and Mark Andrews. Yep. They threw Hayden Hurst on the scrap heap because they were so confident in Mark Andrews. The guy wasn't even drafted last season. Yep. And now in 2020 drafts, you had to get him in the 3rd round at the latest, or you weren't going to have in on him. So if you added Mark Andrews last season off the waiver wire in like a dynasty league, that's a long-term league winning kind of championship move for your team.
Definitely. Another great point. Darren Waller is a guy I added everywhere last season when Antonio Brown was cut from Oakland. So, yep, two players, and tight ends do come up for sure, definitely. All right, Chris, I'm gonna get you through these 4 hates, and then we'll get you out of here so that you can go enjoy your night. Let's start with your quarterback here that you are against for this week.
Yeah, let's be honest. This is no secret. It's not like people are gonna watch this and go, "Oh my, you have to watch that podcast." You'll never believe who Chris said that he hates. Oh, he said Carson Wentz. How dare him? The guy has looked absolutely awful. He's thrown. I believe he's thrown 9 interceptions in his last 192 attempts. I mean, something. Let me start over. Something is wrong with this team, and it's Carson Wentz. The team, if you look over the past few years, this team has gone as Carson Wentz has gone, and he hasn't gone anywhere yet this season. He has his touchdown to interception ratio is so out of whack. He has 6 touchdowns on one hand, and then he has 9 interceptions on the other hand. He's got he got 120 rushing yards, 122, excuse me. So he's not doing that. Means that either the coaches aren't confident in his knee and his leg, or he's not confident in his knee or his leg. And now no one's confident in his arm. So he has 1 arm left, 1 leg left, and he's not going anywhere in a very tough NFC East division, with the Cowboys, with the Giants. So I don't see it getting any better for Carson Wentz, and I don't see it getting any better for the Philly Eagles anytime soon. So, yeah, of course, I hate Carson Wentz this week.
Hey, Chris, man, you must not know that got hurt last week. The Eagles are betting favorites for the NFC East Championship once again. And that doesn't matter what our record is, man. We'll still finish NFC East champs.
Yeah, you'll probably win 7 games, and 7 games will be enough to get you into the playoffs in that division, just like the NFC AFC South, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
all those years, the Houston Texans made the playoffs at 7 wins.
Them and the Titans when they had Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, Mr. 500. I do on a positive note here for DFS purposes. I do like Richard Rodgers. There was the third string tight end, but
second with Dallas Goedert.
Dallas Goedert doesn't look to be playing this weekend. Zach Ertz looks skinny. He looks slow. Yeah, something's not right there. So that thrusts Richard Rodgers into some sort of usage, and he's $4,400 on FanDuel, and he's $2,500 on DraftKings. So
I guess pivot from a chalky Trey Burton at that price range too.
Absolutely, who's also mentioned in bottom of the barrel this week.
Way to promote as much as you can, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Head into your running back, if you will, which I don't agree with, I will say.
Now, this one hurts because I love Joe Mixon. He's been nothing short of fantastic for me personally, and I just don't see him getting a lot of room this weekend playing the Indianapolis Colts. It looks like, they're in Indianapolis, and I've said it for a few weeks now. Even if I'm not mistaken, I said it before the season even started. The Colts defense is good, and they're for real, and they're putting it together now, and they're even doing it. Darius Leonard didn't play last weekend, and as far as I know, he hasn't practiced this week yet. So even without the maniac, one of the best defensive players in the world, they're still getting it done. They have a fantastic secondary. They're ball hawks. They're flying around, and I don't see a lot of room for Joe Mixon to run between the tackles here this weekend. So in terms of let's say screen passes, I just don't see it happening. They have some very young and active linebackers that can cover sideline to sideline. So Mixon is going to have to do it, as I've said, right up the gut between the tackles, and it's going to be tough sledding for him this weekend. Obviously, if you own Joe Mixon, you're going to start him. He's a stud. He was a top 10 pick this season. And I'm still on board with him being, finishing as a top 10 running back or a top 12, 15 kind of running back. But just temper your expectations this weekend for Mixon in Indianapolis. Now, one thing I've noticed recently on Twitter, there's no in between. If I say I don't like Joe Mixon this week, it doesn't mean cut him or not start him. It just means temper your expectations, right? You're not going to bench Joe Mixon. You're not going to cut Joe Mixon. It just means I don't like him. So be mindful of what you expect him to give your team this week.
Right, and maybe if he's your RB1, start a sort of upside play at RB2, or maybe in your flex spot.
That's what.
Yeah. The reason I don't like the hate on Joe Mixon is because he had a pretty successful week last week against Baltimore, who is a defense that you can make a lot of the same arguments for that you just made arguments for Indianapolis as far as their defense. So, Joe Mixon can succeed if he's given the opportunity in the correct fashion against these good defenses. Last week, Joe Mixon had 6 receptions, I believe, for 35 yards, which wasn't a ton of yardage, but he still got the work. And if you sort of give him that opportunity, he has that sort of Miles Sanders upside. Like we all hated Miles Sanders last week against Pittsburgh, but then 174-yard touchdown later, and he's a top 10 running back.
Major day,
yeah. All right, let's head into the wide receiver position now for you, Chris.
Now, this one, it might be a shock, or it might, depending on your mindset. Robbie Anderson, they're playing Chicago this weekend, and Robbie Anderson has had a career renaissance thus far to the season. Let's just be honest.
Let's be honest, yeah, honestly.
If you get away from Adam Gase, your career is saved.
I guess so. And here's and what I'm about to say is no secret either. When he played for the Jets, he was the definition of boom or bust, and that's exactly what he did. His bag of tricks was a 75-yard touchdown. If today's the day where he can grab that 75-yard touchdown, then starting him was that's all you expected for him. He's not a PPR guy, not going to get you 8 or 9, 10 catches, something like that. But moving to Carolina this season, I believe his renaissance but he's been running shorter routes this season. If you guys watched any tape or watched any film on him, he's running shorter.
I've been noticing, man.
He's been running shorter intermediate routes, slants, or fly patterns is boom, 10 yards cut, 15 yards cut, or the post play where you run 20 yards and out towards the sideline. So he's having a lot more success here. And maybe you're right. That was the ineptitude of the Jets. They didn't even think of that. We have a wide receiver, and let's just let him run 75 yards every play and hope he gets open. They didn't know that maybe you can do some shorter passes or some slants or screen plays with the guy. And he's been fantastic. And I'm more than happy for the guy. He's always been someone that I've enjoyed watching, right? But this week, looking at my notes, he's playing Chicago this weekend, right? And Chicago, they're 4-1. Who would have thought that? Right. And let's be honest, it has nothing to do with Mitchell Trubisky or Nick Foles at quarterback. Their quarterback play is not the people getting it done here. It's been primarily on the defensive side of the ball with a guy like Kyle Fuller, who is one of, if not the best defensive back, or excuse me, I'll say cornerback in the league right now. Ball hawk, gets in your face, completely shuts down the side of the field. And mind you, let's say they cut off the routes. Kyle Fuller cuts out that long routes for Robbie Anderson. Well, let's just go to the middle of the field. You got Roquan Smith roaming the middle of the field there, who can knock your head off in one play. So Robbie, what is it, guys? Can we get a ruling?
I think it's Robbie.
Robbie, okay.
I can vouch that, but I think it's Robbie.
Okay. So another guy, if you own him, you're not going to bench him. Let's just temper your expectations with Robbie Anderson this weekend. And I have him for about 5 receptions, which is fantastic in a PPR league. 5 receptions for 50 yards, 50, 60 yards or so. So you're looking at 10 points in a PPR league, which is fantastic for, your wide receiver 3 spot. I wouldn't go into week 6 expecting him to hit a home run, expecting him to get 16, 18 points here. I think his floor this weekend is anywhere between 8 or 10 PPR points. So for that reason, I dislike Robbie Anderson this weekend. I don't hate, I dislike him.
Right. I understand that completely. And by the way, I've checked it. His real name is Robert. So okay. I'm assuming that's Robbie.
I'm going to say Robert Anderson. Robbie Anderson and Robert. Robert.
As long as you're not calling me that, I'm fine with it. No. All right, Chris, one more position before we get you out of here.
Sure.
Go on and hit it for us.
I've never seen why people were always so interested in this guy. I don't take victory laps because I've been there before, and so I would act like I kind of know what I'm doing. But Austin Hooper comes from Atlanta to Cleveland, and he was the second coming. He was being drafted in the top 10. Even I think we could squeak him in like the top 6, top 7 tight ends heading into the season this year. And he's done absolutely nothing. He's caught only 1 touchdown this year. He has 17 receptions in 5 games, 1 touchdown, hasn't even broken 200 receiving yards. He sits at 153. And I don't know about you guys, but that's not the kind of numbers I'm looking for in, a top 5 tight end. He's just not getting it done. And you look at this weekend, Cleveland's going to Pittsburgh, right? So on one side, you could tell me, or we could argue that Cleveland, are they finally putting it together? They have a very nice record. They're 4-1. Baker is starting to break out of his sophomore season, slump. They're getting everybody involved. Chubb is gone, right? Or he's hurt on the IR. So Kareem Hunt is there taking away passing down work. Dearness Johnson is getting some work inside the tackles. And you have Odell Beckham, who commands a ton of attention. And you have Jarvis Landry. And together, they're throwing each other the ball. They're pitching each other the ball. And Hooper is nowhere to be found. So I don't know why anybody would not only roster Hooper, but start Hooper. He is absolutely droppable to me, and he's been droppable for 2 or 3 weeks now. So, I know hate is a strong word, but I hate Hooper this week and for the rest of the season.
Yeah. I think Hooper, he signed a huge contract in the offseason, but I think his role in the offense as a blocker and sort of leaker and someone they can run random tight end screens with, he's not going to be a fantasy relevant guy, but he is a vital player for their offense. So
absolutely.
people will try to point to the money as in a reason why Hooper should succeed in fantasy, but that doesn't always correlate.
Well, if I can get in the league with you guys where good blocks count for points, then I'm all about Hooper. But until then, I'm staying away from him. Let me leave you with this question. So, Chubb goes on IR, right? And it's a huge knock. But Cleveland has Hunt, and he can get the work done. People were more excited about Dearness Johnson and adding him and playing Dearness Johnson than they were about Austin Hooper. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, Dearness Johnson did very little last week. Yes, I know it. I don't know. Kareem Hunt. We all knew he was going to be a top 10 running back if ever Nick Chubb went down, and he might be even more than that. So.
And look what happened on Sunday. Kareem Hunt caught a touchdown, if I remember correctly, and it was a short red zone intermediate route, which would have been perfect for a tight end, right? Hunt, it's like a 7-yard pass, and he cut out, towards the end zone, and Baker hit him on that play. Classic tight end route, and they let Hunt take it. So,
yep, definitely. Chris, you want to do one final shout out of your content before you head out here?
Sure, it's really easy. You can see my handles right down there. Follow me at Detroit Beastie. Send me a DM. Tag me in anything. I'm always willing and happy to talk and answer questions. Bottom of the Barrel is out now. Go check it out. Let me know what you guys think.
Chris, thanks so much for joining. It won't be another month before we have you back on.
I hope not, boys.
Bill, say goodbye to our
Detroit
incredible host.
That was, real quick, for that was fantastic. I felt like the cool uncle at like a Christmas Eve dinner, and Rob, you're like, Billy, say goodbye to your Uncle Chris now.
Bill's like, bye, Chris.
Bye.
See you next year.
Later, boys.
Right, Chris.
I'll catch up with you. Thanks
so much. All right, Billy. We have our hype to get to. Let's try and run through it real quick because I have dinner here next to me. I've been smelling it for the past half hour. And
yeah, I feel you. I got till 8 p.m. myself.
Yeah. So
you want me to get my first player?
Sure. Let's hit your hype first.
Yeah, my hype man this week is Ryan Fitzpatrick. If you like revenge narratives, I'm rolling out Ryan Fitzpatrick. Oh, Fitzmagic. Did you know that Ryan Fitzpatrick Sunday joined Dan Marino as the only players in franchise history to compile at least 350 passing yards with 3 touchdowns and no turnovers? That just shows the upside that Ryan Fitzpatrick has been posting this year. He's been a QB1 so far this season. I know we're all waiting for the downfall of Fitz. It happens all the time. But the Jets defense rates 20th in pressuring passers and allowed the 3rd most yards to quarterback this season. If you follow the momentum in the matchup, I'm streaming Fitz in redraft leagues and playing him in DFS this week at very, very low ownership. How do you feel about Fitz Magic Mania? Kind of going under the radar this week, surprisingly.
Very strange. He's currently the quarterback 7 in fantasy right now through 5 weeks, which is crazy to me because he's so his ownership is so low in so many redraft leagues, and he's the number 7 quarter. Like, people just don't want to play Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, they just don't understand. Sometimes you just got to go with the stats and not the player name.
Yeah, I think he is the perfect pickup for a lot of teams that lost Dak Prescott this week.
Or even dealing with bye weeks this week also as well. Somebody texted me while we're on show that if they should trade for Aaron Rodgers, this, that, and the third. And I said, who's on your waivers? And he said, Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I said, there's your answer. He's a quarterback 1 this season. Yeah,
it's Rodgers is great, but it's hard to pay up to get Rodgers when you have a guy like Fitzpatrick out there for free. Literally for free. So, I'm going to hit my hype here. My first hype, it's a running back. And it's going to be Chase Edmonds, running back for the Arizona Cardinals. They get to take on the Dallas Cowboys this week on Monday Night Football. So Chase Edmonds, yeah, he's not out touching Kenyon Drake, but he is so much more efficient than Kenyon Drake. He looks a lot better than Kenyon Drake. He's a huge hold in redraft. He is a weird commodity in Dynasty where you might want to own him more than Kenyon Drake right now by the way that you can see their production. Chase Edmonds, the big thing that he has over Kenyon Drake is that he's used in the passing game. In a lot of leagues are PPR where you get a whole point for a reception. A lot of leagues don't account for points for carries where Kenyon Drake is dominating carries. But think about it. What's easier to get, 60 yards or 3 catches for 30 yards? I think the latter is much easier. Chase Edmonds can definitely hit that against Dallas. Chase Edmonds has had a very strong baseline when it comes to receptions in recent weeks. And I think he can have a lot of success in this matchup against Dallas. Bill?
I kind of feel a little bit differently about Chase Edmonds than you. I'm on the Kenyon Drake bandwagon. He is my hype man for this weekend. Drake has been one of the most disappointing running backs so far in draft season, but Dallas's defense is so bad, and without Dak, they could be even worse, not knowing that they have a quarterback to put up points on the board. The Cowboys have let up a league high 36 points per game and letting up 126.2 rushing yards per game to running backs. So I think this is the start of where the good times get going for Kenyon Drake, and fantasy owners will be paid off very nicely. I know Chase Edmonds has been dominating the receiving game work compared to Kenyon Drake, but I think this is one of the weird cases, scenarios where I feel like Kenyon Drake is just going to be popping, and then we're going to see him all over the fantasy football community next week. Buy Kenyon Drake, buy low Kenyon Drake. That's what's going to happen.
Because I did buy low, and I'm just hoping. I'm holding out hope. I have to play him this week. It would have been disappointing last week if Kenyon Drake did not score the touchdown. By the way, to this point, this season, Kenyon Drake is currently the RB 32, and where is that? Oh, Chase Edmonds is currently the RB 29. So Chase Edmonds is outperforming Kenyon Drake for 5 weeks, which is something I definitely did not think he's saying before the season started. All right, my second hype that I'm hitting this week is a guy that a lot of people were on last week, but sort of a post-hype sleeper, I would say here, in Justin Jefferson for the Minnesota Vikings. So obviously, you heard Chris talk about Kirk Cousins, Irv Smith, Adam Thielen is having a great season so far. Justin Jefferson has kind of shown up. Last week, there was a lot of love for Justin Jefferson heading into a great matchup against Seattle, and he had pretty much of a dud game. But the game script, the way that the games were flowing, it was just perfect for Minnesota to just run the football the entire time. Dalvin Cook was tearing up the Seattle defense. And then when Dalvin Cook got hurt, Alexander Mattison stepped in and tore up the Seattle defense. Kirk Cousins didn't have to do a lot. Now, I know Seattle's offense is much better than Atlanta's offense, but Justin Jefferson can definitely have success in this matchup as well. Atlanta is absolutely terrible against wide receivers, and I think that in this game, without Dalvin Cook, they're going to have to rely on the passing game. Not a ton more, but at least a little bit more. And I think Justin Jefferson is going to be a big part of the game plan. How do you feel about Jefferson this week, Bill?
Not much to really say other than what you already added on. Justin Jefferson and the DFS community is like one of the most talked about players this week. Him, Kirk Cousins, and not really Adam Thielen, shockingly, but yeah, I definitely
probably
see
based on price.
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. Hit your final hype player here. I actually like yours a little more than Justin Jefferson.
I like that, man. Darius Slayton, he came through as chalk last week for DFS owners despite Daniel Jones' struggles, but he gets another good divisional matchup against the Redskins. He should be the lone reliable Caesar that you can trust on this team, and I feel like if you have a wide receiver playing against NFC East teams, no matter what's the name, what the stats are, must start. He's a must start. that means the Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, and Washington football team. Yes, not the Redskins, the football team. All 4 of those teams, if you have a wide receiver starting against the NFC East, he's a must start. And a lot of people aren't really talking about Darius Slayton this week. Last week, they're talking about him because of Daniel Jones and how bad the Cowboys defense was. But honestly, I think this is a better matchup this week against the Washington football team than it was the Cowboys. Not on paper, but I think he'll produce better in this game. How do you feel about Darius Slayton this week? I know you're a big Evan Ingram type of guy. You're a truther, as I would like to say.
No, I don't know if I would do that or go that far, but it's more so like opportunities there, and the opportunity is there for Darius Slayton. I think Darius Slayton is a better player than Evan Ingram, and I'm hoping that Darius Slayton continues to come through. I think he's a stud, and whether Daniel Jones is the future or not. Daniel Jones can, provide him with the opportunity to cash in on, being a great fantasy asset. So I love the Darius Slayton pick, and I had to do it again. Like you said, Evan Ingram. I guess I'm becoming a stan because, I guess I am becoming a truther because I think I said Evan Ingram last week. I'm not sure. I did. With the thread saying bye Evan Ingram ahead of the Dallas. The only probably weird, New York scored 34 points, and Evan Ingram saw his lowest target count on the year at 2. However, Evan Ingram in every other game has seen at least 5 targets, and in this game, Evan Ingram was heavily utilized in the red zone. He had the rushing touchdown on the end around, and the Giants went for a fake field goal attempt. That worked. Evan Ingram was wide open, had an easy touchdown, caught the ball and everything. The only problem was a player lined up off the line of scrimmage and was an illegal shift or something, illegal formation or whatever. So it just didn't count. It should have counted. It was a great play, great design. And if that did happen, Evan Ingram would have a huge week. We would all be talking about him right now. So I look. You mentioned the Washington football team matchup. It's a great matchup for tight ends as well. So I'm still staying in the fire with Evan Ingram here. All right, we've talked about our heights, getting our hates, and then we can, hopefully end this night well for each other. I'll start off here, and I'm going to talk about a hate, and it's not necessarily a hate because a lot of people are going to play him. A lot of people are going to want to play him or be forced in those Superflex Dynasty leagues. If you pay up, you're going to have to play him. But Andy Dalton, and this is sort of narrative street here, but Bill, I'm going to ask you this. Do you remember the narrative around Andy Dalton in primetime matchups?
No, I never remember the Bengals even being in primetime games. So I really don't know what stat you're about to pull out on me.
I don't have the exact record in front of me, but I do remember that Andy Dalton did not perform well historically in primetime matchups. And this is a Monday Night Football game against the Arizona Cardinals.
I mean, I think that's more reflective. I think that's more reflective on how bad those Bengal teams were. If you get into the game script about this upcoming game, it has a pretty high point total. A little bit, if it was Dak in the game, would probably have the highest point total of the week. But I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to put up points on the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are going to be able to at least throw the ball, and Andy Dalton should be able to hit a floor. I don't think he's a bad play, but I definitely see what you mean by manage your expectations, because it's not like he's a rushing quarterback, and it's hard for a non-rushing quarterback to finish as a QB1 weekly.
Just checked the stats on that heading into, well, I'm not sure. It says September 30th of 2019, so I'm not sure what week that would have been. But heading into whatever week that was, Andy Dalton was 6-14 in primetime games. And that even goes back to when he was leading the Bengals into playoff football back then. So it's more narrative streak of, okay, Andy Dalton does not have a great history in primetime matchups, but this is a completely different team with a completely different offense, and he has some great weapons around him. Like I said, though, you're probably playing him, but it's more so like if he has a bad game, don't be surprised and don't be afraid to, don't be like, oh my God, Andy Dalton sucks, now I have to cut him. Like, no. Like, if he has a bad game, stay in the Flames. He'll be great eventually, in my opinion.
Yeah, the 3 hates that I'm going to talk about real quick because I got to be out of here by 8 o'clock, and that's 5 minutes away. Matt Ryan, Devin Singletary, and Julian Edelman. The reason why I don't like Matt Ryan is because on paper, these matchups have been really good, but he just hasn't been able to produce. And without Julio Jones potentially missing this game, I just don't like Matt Ryan. I'm done playing Matt Ryan for DFS purposes. If you're in a super flex league, you probably don't have any other choice to start him, but I would manage my expectations. Devin Singletary, I think this is a good matchup against the Chiefs, but his touchdown ceiling has been so low. Kansas City has struggled against the run. They've ranked number 28 against the run, but I don't see Singletary being a touchdown threat. So when it comes to that Monday night DFS slate, don't plug in Devin Singletary because you're going to be highly disappointed. I think Josh Allen will probably get a rushing touchdown as he usually does more games than not. Julian Edelman is the last one. I don't know how I feel about Julian Edelman here. I think he has upside with Cam coming back this week, being activated off the COVID IR. But with Demir Bird, he's been limiting that passing volume in that offense, and this is a run-heavy approach scheme. And I think they'll be able to control the clock against the Denver Broncos, who could be without Melvin Gordon.
All right, Bill, before we go, 2 things. Number 1, hit your tweet or your Twitter and all your profiles, whatever you want to shout out once more.
My Twitter @name is @GettingBills. Survivor pool pick this week was the Dolphins.
Dolphins. All right. I accept that. And anything else you want to say before you head out?
Make sure you check out Dynasty Force. We're trying to build up our Apple Podcast subscribers because that's really where you get the most listeners. I'd say if you're listening to this via Apple Podcasts, thank you for being a listener. And make sure you check out Pub Sports Radio Friday. DFS video will be out. It's always good to get inside that video, get an idea of what player props I'm leaning towards and stuff like that. And also I answer people's start sit questions. And with COVID and stuff this year, it's been really difficult to really get a good gauge of who to start and who to sit this early on in the week. So Friday is become the big DFS day and fantasy starting day because that's when you get all the majority of the news ready for Sunday morning. How about you, Rob? Where can they find you at?
Find me on Twitter @FantasyForceFB. I don't have much else besides that. Like I said, I don't have much else going on this week as I'm going to be focusing on finals. And then, in the future, you'll find a lot more content on my page. So be excited for that. And then obviously, as you mentioned, follow the page Dynasty Force Pod on Twitter. Bill, I have a few more to get into, so you are free to go. Thanks so much again, as always, for coming on. And I'll catch you next week as we provide the listeners with even more great content.
I love how Robbie's about to solo at the end. Rob's always a great host, but now he's co-hosting and hosting. Rob, man, you're just a man of many different aspects.
I have to ask myself, would I prefer one player over another? Like, do I want Mark Andrews or Darren Waller this week? I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. All right, see you, Dynasty Sports community. I'm out.
Thanks so much, Bill. All right, I'm going to hit my final few players. I really don't like how I'm all over the screen right now. Is there anything I can – I'm hitting these different buttons. I don't think there's anything I can do. So I'm just going to be huge on the screen right now, all in your face. All right. So I have a few hates to hit before we completely sign off the show. So real quick, I'm going to hate a little bit here for the week. Odell Beckham. He goes up against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Look, Odell did not have a bad week last week, and people may be more interested in playing him, especially after they see what Travis Fulgham did last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 10 for 152 and 1. However, I just think the volume had to be there for Travis Fulgham because who else is going to get it done for Philly? Really no one. Zach Ertz is not doing very much to this point this year. So, I don't think that Cleveland is going to try to win this game through Odell Beckham the same way that Philly seemingly had to win that game by throwing it to Travis Fulgham and only Travis Fulgham. So, Cleveland's going to try to run the ball as much as they can in this game to try and control the clock and beat the defense. Miles Sanders had success with Fulgham last week, but Fulgham had success through volume, and I don't think Odell will probably ever hit that 10 reception mark on the season. So, I'm not going to take a probably lower volume play in a matchup where efficiency is going to be hard to come by against a great defense. And finally, the final hate that I'm hitting on, Zach Ertz here. I mentioned that Travis Fulgham did all the damage against Pittsburgh last week. Crazy how a guy like Travis Fulgham and Greg Ward are so involved in the passing game, yet Zach Ertz finishes with 1 catch for 6 yards. A lot of talk has been made of Zach Ertz this season and what he has done to this point. It has been extremely disappointing, and there's just not much more to say in that. At this point, if I have Zach Ertz in any leagues, I'm benching him, and I'm looking for higher upside. It's hard to come by on the current waiver wire, but I'm hoping that you probably had someone like, Jonnu Smith. You picked him up when he was starting to come up. Evan Ingram, a guy I've mentioned, buying low on, which you possibly can still do. Jared Cook, the likes of these guys who, they're coming back from either injury or a long stay away or just disappointment, and now, they have higher upside rest of season than Zach Ertz. So those are some guys that I would look to pivot to instead of playing Zach Ertz as a whole. And you heard Billy allude to it right before he headed out. Survivor picks that we have been making for this season so far. The Miami Dolphins he's taking this week. I was highly considering the Miami Dolphins. They played the New York Jets. They just had a great week against the San Francisco 49ers. The only reason I didn't take them is because it's a divisional game, and honestly, anything can happen in those divisional games. So I wasn't too excited, but, I definitely see where he's coming from, and he's the one who's in the lead between us on the season. So I'll listen to him before I'll listen to myself. But this week for me, I am taking the Green Bay Packers. They're playing at Tampa Bay, which is a little concerning, going to Tampa Bay, and they're also a good team. But I really believe that the Green Bay Packers are the best team in the NFC. They are coming off of the bye, and they will have Devontae Adams back. So I think this offense, which has been great even without Adams, is going to have a huge help, and they're going to look to show their dominance in the 4 p.m. slate for Sunday, going up against one of their big-time opponents in the NFC, Aaron Rodgers, versus Tom Brady. And on the season, Billy is 4-1, and I'm 3-2. So hopefully, I've never rooted for a Jets win, especially with Adam Gase at the helm. But hopefully, Adam Gase can pull through for me in the divisional matchup, and then the Green Bay Packers can sneak out that win so that I can be ahead of Billy at the top. Well, I would be tied with him, but tied with Billy for the lead in the Survivor pool. All right, I have hit on all the content. I tried to hit it really quick because I have dinner right here, and I've just been so excited to eat it for probably the past 45 minutes now. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Another longer episode. I did not want to hit this long, but thanks so much for tuning in regardless. And if you stayed to the end, I can't offer enough thanks. So next week, Wednesday, Billy and I will be back with another episode of the Dynasty Force Podcast. Be sure to tune in. Catch us live on Twitter at Dynasty Force Pod or on YouTube, Dynasty Force Podcast. thank you so much again. Catch you next.